We're
And
on
now,
now.
oh,
I never cease to be amazed that we just pop on live and we're
yay.
so unpolished around here. We don't have a fancy intro. Uh, Debbie wants us to get a fancy intro, so maybe we'll get a fancy intro where we start the show and all. I used to do that on my podcast.
Yeah.
Remember the Stream of David
Mhm.
podcast? I've gone
Yes,
through these different intros, and now we kind of just start talking,
I know. I love it
which I like
though.
better.
Me too.
Because if you listen all the time, then you're having to like sit through the same intro over and over and over again if you're listening
Hmm.
to multiples or something like that. So I'd rather just kind of dive right into it.
Yes.
But that's just me. Maybe I need a fancier intro. We need more window dressing in this world, I guess.
Right.
So how are you, Nicole?
I'm good. How are you?
We literally just jumped on, so I'm genuinely asking her how
I
she
know.
is.
I know. I'm
We
doing
did just
good.
meet yesterday, so there is
Yes.
that. And you were on here last week with Erica, and I
Yes.
had fantastic feedback for that interaction. So thank you for doing that while I
That
was
was
off in San
fun.
Diego,
Thanks.
lovely San Diego. So we're going to dive into welcome to Tya Talk Live. I'm here with Tya bootcamp graduate and Tya master Nicole Henry. One of our big Tya success stories, if you will. Um, and we're going to dive into hidden transgressors and really what all that's about.
Hmm.
Because anytime we are experiencing a low vibrational period, anytime we are having what we call a spin out, and just to back up a little bit, because we have a lot of new people in the group now, and kind of cover these transgressors. A transgressor is any unwanted person, circumstance, or event. Anything you can't look upon in full appreciation is transgressors. We all have multiple transgressors throughout our lives. Some are present now and going all the way back. Hi, Erica. Thank you for hosting last week. Um, so the reason that we address transgressors so much in this practice is because we're all operating in vibrational flow, meaning we are sometimes just naturally in higher vibrational territory, and other times we are naturally in lower vibrational territory. And we all know that because it's expressed in our emotions. Sometimes we feel good and we feel hopeful and we feel joy for no particular reason. We're just up, and sometimes we're down. Well, that is because of vibrational flow. And as you get into this practice, those of you that are new to it, those of you that have been in it, know that vibrational flow is the source of all creation, really, because that taking you up and down on this vibrational journey is causing you to attract a mix of things that are your preferences, and when you're in lower vibrational territory, things that are not your preferences. So
Hmm.
one of the things that we do, well, really all of Tya is about eliminating the things that drag our vibration down systematically, because we are taught a lot of things in society, in the playbook of humanity, that drag us down. We are taught to judge ourselves against this ideal, this idea of perfection, this ideal being. We are taught that we're supposed to live life a very specific way, and if we don't live that specific way, there's something wrong. We're less than.
Hmm.
We look at celebrities and place them on this big pedestal of, oh, that's how we all want to be.
Hmm.
And then we love nothing more than seeing them fall from that pedestal because we get so frustrated and our inability to be that false the projection of perfection.
Hmm.
Nobody's operating in any way. So all of these things that we do to raise our vibration systematically. And what we find is when we raise our default vibration, life gets a lot better. More
Hmm.
joy, more clarity, more abundance. Those are the big three, right? Because if you're living in joy, you're connected to source, you're loving yourself, you're learning to love and appreciate all that is. In that high vibrational state of source connection, you are clear. You come to understand your purpose. You come to understand the process of creation. You come to understand and ultimately appreciate all of humanity. You're not scrolling through Facebook commenting on political posts because you need to be right and everybody else has to be wrong so that you can feel good about yourself. You're
Right.
not dealing with that stuff at all. You don't even care. You no longer have a pony in that race. Isn't that amazing?
I love it.
You don't
Yeah.
have a pony in the race. You don't care. It doesn't
I
matter.
know.
You're creating your reality, not the person sitting in the White House or whatever country you're living in, who's
Right.
leading it.
Right.
That's the best thing.
Yes. Well, and I
No
love
longer
how you
being
said
triggered.
projection of perfection because we're totally programmed to have that, to be a projection of perfection at all times. And it's just so unrealistic to hit that mark.
Yeah. Yeah, the beauty industry, the weight loss industry, all of these things that, again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to project what you want to project. This isn't about that judgment, but anything that drags your vibration down. So if you're looking at this ideal and comparing yourself to it and thinking, gosh, why can't I look like Kim Kardashian?
I was just going to say that.
Let's picture me looking like Kim Kardashian for a minute. Why can't I look like Kim Kardashian? And then you start emotionally beating yourself up about it.
Right.
And this isn't about beating up Kim Kardashian. I know a lot of people love to do that.
Right.
I think she's great.
Yeah.
Have your abundant life, have your projection that you want to have. Go for it. Live your life. Do your thing. I actually am entertained by her. I like her. So, but she's one of the most famous people in the world, and so many people follow her every move. And if you're doing so because you appreciate her, that's one thing. But if you are lowering your vibration in comparison, that's something totally different. And we really dive into those nuances in this practice.
Yeah.
Is it uplifting you or is it dragging you down? Because if it's dragging you down, then why are you doing it? But we're systematically programmed to do that, right?
Definitely. I mean, I feel like for me, with Tya, I didn't know tangibly any of this stuff. Like, I just knew that I was, and I didn't even really know about victim vibration until Tya. I just knew that bad stuff happened to me all the time. Why does it always keep happening? All I knew was trauma, and still kind of responding to and clearing up that vibrational dust of trauma.
Yeah, and we talked about that some yesterday, and I'll let you share whatever you want to share around that. You don't have to share any of it if you don't want to. But the continual identification of hidden transgressors in your life experience. And what happens is you get into the Tya practice, you start facing that. It feels like you're about to climb this giant mountain that just seems impossible. Those that get into boot camp get in and start working on that with coaching and things like that, and you get through it. But when people graduate from the boot camp program, they're always transformed, but they're not done.
Yeah.
And I have to kind of remind them of that sometimes. You've done a lot of work. You're in this great space. That's wonderful. But what you did in here is you learned this process on a very deep level, and now you're going to go out and practice it if you choose to do so. And the promise that I make to everyone, if they keep at it, the practice becomes fun. I promise it becomes a whole lot of fun.
It does.
It's thrilling because you do a few little things and you see energy shift and you see your life changes happening immediately. But then there's this sort of stretch. Okay, now I've got to really start making this process fun, because seeing things sort of cycle back around, even while you're in the practice, and present themselves again and again and again for your attention, if you want to pay attention to it, that becomes a fun process. But it takes a little time to allow that to become a fun process. But that's our real operating system. And that's what we've talked about, Tya being the new operating system for humanity. And I know that sounds very bold, but really the reason that we say that is because the stream has shared that it's really our natural operating system.
I agree with that. It's an internal guidance system that's connected to source. And I was definitely disconnected from source, or I would say connected and then disconnected. Whereas with Tya, I'm more connected than disconnected, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and remember too that our source connection is always present. It's always there. It's not something that we have to go and seek, and we have to be at a certain level of righteousness to be worthy of, or any of that stuff. It's always there. It powers us, but it's got to be realized. And I love that term, realized. When something is realized, think about the origin of that word. Realize isn't that you just thought about it. What happens is you've made it real. Your belief in it and acceptance of it makes it real.
Yeah.
That's realization of something. So you've realized your source connection. It's always there. Your belief in it is what gives it power and makes it real.
Yeah. And we've only been on for 10 minutes. I feel like we've covered so much that I don't know where to begin, but it's always so great chatting with you, because it's like, I feel like I could talk to you forever. And you had mentioned the spin out, you had mentioned the old playbook, which is what we talked about in the summit on Saturday. And then I was thinking before we got on, like, I'm grateful that I wasn't one and done with the Tya practice, like just looked at it to like get rid of some of my problems and move on with life. Like, I knew that there was something that I needed to implement that was tangible on a daily basis. And I think that that's what's missing with the law of attraction mindset sometimes, that like, oh, you're going to manifest this stuff, but then what do you do with it? And you still have those transgressors and the vibrational dust that's going to crop up. And like, I'm definitely not the same person I was 3 years ago or even a year ago. So I love that Tide grows with you. I mean, that's huge for me.
Yeah, the origin of this practice is something that I created for myself in my early 40s. I'm 53 now, so
Mhm.
I'm the longest practitioner of it, if you will. And there's still these cycles that I go through where I create these spin outs for myself. But the
Yeah,
spin outs have so many nuggets, so many gifts in the spin out. Like, oh wow, there's another transgressor that I never thought about, and you just start systematically clearing these things through a detuning process. And that detuning process really is radical appreciation, and
yeah,
the idea of appreciating the things that we're told not to appreciate is radical across
yeah.
humanity. So we call it radical appreciation, because it is radical. And we want you to know how radical it is, because that all of the things that we're taught to be disgusted by, to hate, to push against, to fight, to battle. Notice that
Mhm.
those things don't go away. We don't solve them. We don't solve them until we actually we sort of turn our attention away from it a little bit, allow the vibration to go up, and then the solution just becomes this natural state of being. And
Yeah.
that's true for your in the moment frustration with your computer. And that's
Mhm.
true for solving all of humanity's problems.
Yeah.
Every problem that we have could be solved if we stopped battling it.
It's true. It's so true. And I think the conversation that we had yesterday was huge for me because I had a money spin out and I just was getting into the cycle of borrowing money from people, and I was not feeling good about it. And it was an old playbook idea, old vibration. And then you and I had to discuss like what is really behind it, was for me like needing people to show up in my life. And that was huge for me to discover because when I was in Taya, in boot camp, I was like not even able to wrap my mind around that. It was just getting rid of all of the transgressor stuff up to that current moment. So being able to look at, I'm in mastery now. I've been living on my own for 2 years, and for people who don't know my backstory, I came into boot camp when I was living in somebody's house. Like, I was in one of their bedrooms
Just
rented.
say you were kind of couch surfing, right?
Yeah, and I had a daughter, and the relationship with her father wasn't great. And at that time, like the one transgressor which we talked about yesterday was, well, for me it's trauma. And I was still playing to the beat of the drum of trauma, and that need to be traumatized, that need to feel the trauma feeling, instead of having that radical appreciation for the experience and allowing it that freedom and clarity that I get when I can fully appreciate the situation. And the one situation for me was my brother. He's in jail. He's been incarcerated for 10 years. He has another 10 years till he meets his minimum. And when I was in boot camp, it was like having appreciation, so to speak, for the situation. Like, he's safe, and it went a lot better than it could have, I guess, but it was like way worse in my mind. And I made peace with it, but I didn't have radical appreciation for it. So that was a turning point for me as well. Was radical appreciation includes more than just having peace for the situation.
Hmm. Well, I think we go through these layers, right? So
Mhm.
if you have lived your whole life in an operating system that tells you that your brother being incarcerated is wrong and it's bad, and there's a whole story behind that we don't have to get into, but it's wrong and it's bad. He's your brother, you love him, you feel
Mhm.
like it was not the right thing to transpire, and you've really focused on that because society tells you that's how you're supposed to feel about it, really.
Mhm.
And that's the old operating system. So you get into boot camp and you start doing this making peace with, well, it's the reality. It is what it is. I might as well find some appreciation for it, or maybe if it's something that's different than that, some forgiveness.
Yeah.
The
Right.
vibration of forgiveness is sort of a rest stop on the way to full blown radical appreciation,
So
but it's a good
true.
rest stop. It's
Mhm.
a step. Forgiveness is certainly better than loathing and victimization and all that stuff.
Right.
So you get to that rest stop of forgiveness, but you're not really done, because the vibration of forgiveness or making peace with is sort of like, I'm just going to be okay with this. I'm just going to decide to be okay with this, and that's okay. That's not the same thing as that source perspective of radical appreciation. So if you want to get all the way to detuning, you've got to move all the way to radical appreciation. But you don't necessarily snap your finger and arrive there instantaneously, because we're operating in vibrational flow. So you get
Mhm.
into a coaching session in boot camp, or you get into a group call, and the vibration is so high. Oh my God, this is amazing. It's the best thing ever. I can't believe I have the keys to the universe. This feels so good. Yes, it's completely detuned. But then what happens is vibrational flow comes along and drags you back down, and suddenly your opinion shifts back.
Mhm.
That's why we have this rubber band getting pulled back into old vibrations, because this clearing that we do takes some work. And
Mhm.
here you are in mastery, excuse me, here you are in mastery 3 years into your practice, and in mastery.
Mhm.
And the beautiful thing about you continuing your practice the way that you have is that you've had these little dust ups. And instead of deciding that, oh, well, this doesn't really work, or it worked a little bit and that's great, now I'm going to move on to something else and something else and something else, which happens sometimes,
Mhm.
you are going deeper and deeper and deeper into the practice, and you see the gifts and the spin outs, and you see how it all traces back really to the same thing. And then you can go into that root transgressor and find appreciation for it, detune the root, and then start working on the branches. And in
Mhm.
working on the branches, then you get to that source perspective of your brother is having his experience.
Mhm.
Your
Yes.
brother is having the experience. You've even said that he's more at peace with it than sometimes than you are, because he has 24/7 to make peace with it, or not. And what happens if you don't,
You're right.
So, and of course, we've all probably seen movies and things where people are depicted incarcerated for a long period of time, that's how they learn to function in that environment. That
Mhm.
becomes their environment. And then the scary thing is getting out.
Right.
Right? The scary thing is
Right.
getting out and having to learn to function, that you've been on a 20-year pause in this one environment, and now you're back into this other environment. And a lot of people right away go back into committing some crime and end up right back in prison. I'm not saying your brother's going to do that.
No, right.
You know,
Yeah.
that happens because they're so tuned to that vibration that
Yeah.
that's they create a situation where they end up back there.
Mhm.
Well, you did the same thing with the financial spin out. And
Mhm.
what we uncovered in that one-to-one yesterday was, yeah, it's the needing people to show up for you. And where
Mhm.
is that rooted? And you discovered where that was rooted, and now you can detune that, and you won't need to experience that again.
And that's what I love so much about Taya is like once you have healed it, it's like you can move on and have even a higher experience than I've had in my whole life. Because before I even found Taya, my vibrational flow was not flowing, and so I'm at a higher vibration than I've ever been in my entire life. So it's like, what do you do with that? And that's why I love staying in the process and in the flow of the programs that Taya Academy offers, because I do want to just keep experiencing better and better in every area of my life. And one thing I'll say before we get into another subject is about the one thing I love about Taya is how good we look. Like we don't need to look like Kim Kardashian because we just glow, which I love. I mean, she glows too. I'm a fan of hers, but I just love the fact that like I'm going to be 42 next month. I don't feel 42, and I don't think I look 42, and it's like just a number. Like we are having fun at every age in Taya, which is amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
It's when people defocus from that lens, that trained lens of humanity, and we talk about sort of zooming out and then refocusing back in through source perspective, you can see a whole different version of anyone or anything. Any process. Somebody was sharing that in the group meeting yesterday, that they had one opinion from childhood of something, and they realized that that was rooted in some experience they had in childhood of a place, and then refocusing on this place from a higher perspective, they never realized how beautiful it was. And as I've gotten older, and perhaps with my practice, there are things that I used to not appreciate that I can now, elements of life, elements of humanity, people, places, things that I can see through that lens of source of deep appreciation.
Yeah.
And that is in us. That's available to us. And it's not about it's not about pulling something in, because we're all taught that there is, some sort of deity that's off somewhere that we need to connect to. And really it's not off anywhere. It's right here. We're in the middle of it. We are in the energetic realm. We are of the energetic realm. We are expressions and physical of the energetic realm, and we are expressions and physical of source. But what creates our physical experience is that contrast of being the embodiment of source, but then falling out of that to have our gritty human experience, which is the down the spiral stuff, which is vibrational flow. And that creates so many gifts for us. That is actually the source of new creation, because if we were operating in that eternal perspective of perfection all the time, then we wouldn't create anything new,
Right.
because we would just be in perfection.
Yeah.
And I love the streams analogy of that example they give us of sitting at a 5-star resort, and being waited on hand and foot. And for a little while, that's fine. But then we get bored with that, and we create a disruption in that. There's nothing that's stimulating us in that place. We become very complacent in our just constant state of joy and clarity. We would be very complacent.
Yeah. And bored, because I was talking to another Thai master beginning of the week, Elisha, and we were talking about The Good Place, the TV show that was on NBC, and I rewatched it again. And I like to rewatch shows sometimes and movies through the lens of Tya. And they touched on that. Like, they finally get to the good place where everything's perfection and they're all bored. They want to move on to something else. And that's what Tya is all about, is expansion and having that radical appreciation. Like, you don't have to have it on your deathbed. You can have it now. Because I noticed that with my dad when I was with him. He died in March, and he was on his deathbed. We had many conversations, and they were all infused with Tya. And he was like, wow, the work that you're doing is huge. Like, I can't even put it into words, because he's, about to cross over and has that ability to see from the eyes of source in that moment. But we get it now. So it's like, I don't have to wait until that time. I get to do it now, which I think is a huge gift.
Yeah. And what we do in the practice is we apply that source perspective of trust.
Yeah.
Of trust through our vibrational flow. That's what we're working toward. That even when things are unraveling, we understand that we are causing the unraveling of them, that it's a natural part of the process. This isn't about come in and learn the law of attraction and have a perfect life.
Right.
I know that there are a lot of books sold on that promise, but I have yet to meet anyone who's living the perfect life.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people now who write books. I've met just in my business, people who write books and host podcasts and radio shows and own empires around the law of attraction, and not one of them is living in perfection.
Yeah.
And neither am I. And
Right.
it's not about living in perfection. Life is never supposed to be about perfection. It can be ongoing improvement and clarity, and certainly more joy and less judgment and less fear. And that's what the practice does for us, is it gives us the tools to detune fear and judgment systematically. So I want to take a little break to just say hi to everybody that is watching live.
Yes.
We have Debbie Garcia, and we have Deborah Wilson, and Erica, of course, is on. We already said hi to her. Francois is on. Francois was at the summit on Saturday, relative to our world. So thank you for watching. And I see all the wonderful comments. And this discussion, I really want to sort of get back in. My allergies are kicking up this morning. I really want to get back into to the detuning of hidden transgressors, because we always have little things. And the most fun element of the Tya practice to me now is to realize that I've been triggered by something, or realize that I'm in a lower vibrational state, and then kind of have that aha moment of, okay, what's revealing itself now in this state that I can work on.
Right.
Work is
Yes.
fun.
Well, that was big for me too yesterday, because when I get to that point of not liking how I feel, like I know there's more work to be done, because, and it's okay to not to feel it and be friends with that negative feeling. But, and I'm not saying that I want to feel amazing all the time, but I know that I came into Tire for a reason, and it's not like a microwave solution to my life, because I had been programmed. I started Thai at 39. I'd been programmed a certain way at 38, 39 years of my life. And I'm only 3 years in, like I'm still in the toddler phase, I feel like. So it's huge for me. I love doing the work. And it reminded me when you said hello, Kerry asked me, we have to pick a name for the free stream session.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Glad somebody remembered that. I didn't.
yeah. So I'm like, I'm cutting up the names now so that I can pull.
It's actually not a free stream. We're going to give away a ticket to one of the summit of your choice. This is huge.
Oh, okay. So I was wrong about the ticket.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't even do stream sessions anymore. We'll get into that. The summits that we're doing next year, we are doing LA. We're doing a live in-person summit where you can come. We are about to pick the venue, but it is January 15th of 2022 in Los Angeles, and we are nailing down a venue near LAX. So if you're coming from out of town, you can fly into LAX. Fun. But LAX, you can fly to LAX from anywhere. So you can fly right into LAX, and we'll be very clear. You can shuttle right from the airport, and then what we're giving away is a free ticket to that event. Or if you're not able to make LA, we are going to do New York in April, and we have a date for April. If Carrie's watching, she can post that. And then we're going to do London in July, and then we're planning to do Sydney in October. Australia still has a lot of restrictions and lockdown right now, but we're hoping in a year, we're intending, I should say, in a year that we'll be able to go do Sydney. So for the podcast, if you listen to the Stream of David podcast, those are our 4 biggest markets. So we decided just to hit those 4 big markets next year in 2022 with live summits. So we will be doing at least an all-day, one-day event in each of these locations, perhaps even a 2-day event, just depending on attendance, where you can come and be in the space with us and come and sit with the stream and ask the stream questions if you're called upon. I can't promise that because we only have so much time in the space, but you will get a free ticket to your choice of those 4 summits next year. And that's what we're drawing for right now, is the ticket to entry to the summit. You still have to get yourself there and pay for your hotel and all that kind of stuff. But the tickets, I think, are going to be $197. So it's a free ticket, $197 value to the summit itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got all the names of the people that commented posts.
Yep. I'm going to shuffle them.
I feel like I should have a drum roll or something. Again, no window dressing around here. Sorry.
No acoustics. Maybe we'll get there. It's perfection in the moment. All right, I'm going to shuffle them up. All right, the winner is Siri Bridget Nornberg.
Oh, cool.
Yay, Siri.
So congratulations, Siri. I don't know if you're watching right now, but if you're watching in the future, you are the winner of the free ticket to I believe she's in Europe, so she would be the London unless she wants to come to LA, which she can.
Right.
So you choose one of the 4 summits. You have a free ticket to attend the summit in person in 2022. So congratulations, Siri. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to everybody that came to the summit last Saturday. It was just so much, just super high vibes. But I think what do we call it? Super vibes.
Yes.
That time goes by like it's half an hour, and we're on for 4 hours. Mm-hmm. And channeling the stream for 4 hours, you think would be exhausting, but it's exhilarating.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that
at the end, which is kind of entertaining, right? Because when you have pure source just flowing through you for 4 hours straight, it's a very moving experience. Trust me. And at the end, it's a very emotional, sort of return to humanity, if you will. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
really cool thing to experience. If you haven't done one of our summits, that was our final virtual summit of 2021. Next year, they're going to be in-person summits, and we're planning at least 4, so you can attend those. So,
Yes.
so congratulations to our winner, and thank you to everyone that attended. So I want to kind of circle back to our topic once again,
Yes.
hidden transgressors, because your every trigger that you have and every negative reaction you have is rooted in transgressor energy. And the more we clear out our transgressor energy, the less we are triggered. And the less we are triggered, the more our default vibration goes up. And we're doing some graphics for we have a Tya practice book that we're publishing next year. We've been writing it since 2018. So it took us we
Yeah.
took our time with it to really get it dialed in to now that we've taught the practice to people all over the world for 4 years. We have a lot of information, and I started rereading it the other day, going back through for the final touch up before we send out to beta readers. By the way, we're going to be choosing some beta readers for the book, so we'll be posting in the group for people to volunteer to be beta readers of the group. And there's Kat's got certain criteria for that, because we want you to read it in a certain amount of time and be able to provide feedback on it. So, and some of our beta readers are going to be outside the Tya practice, because we want to make sure that we're communicating what the practice is effectively to people that have never heard of it before. Because for a lot of people, that book is going to be the introduction of the Tya practice to the world. And
Mm-hmm.
what we've been co-creating in boot camp for these years, boot camp has more or less been our laboratory of creating the practice together and expanding the practice together. And now we know what that looks like. And so now we feel like, okay, now it's really ready for prime time to get out there with a book in a big way and start sharing these tools with the world, because I'm not aware of any set of tools that's anything like this.
Yeah.
And I am in awe of how effective it is with what the stream has delivered. And those of you that are just getting into this, this practice is magical. And it's not really, because it's really our natural state of being, but it seems so magical because we are told that we are limited by our circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. And we are told that we are victims of our circumstances. And the issue with that is, I understand that it's very soothing. We've created this sort of soothing of it's not your fault. We sort of see a lot of that happening in our culture now. People really doubling down on that whole I've been victimized by someone. It's
Yes.
like we create new things to be victims about every day right now
Yeah.
in society. And I don't like to see that, because, and I realize people are having their experience, but from my human perspective, I know what that does to people. I know that holding yourself in that victim vibration ultimately sticks you in that energy. It doesn't solve anything. It just is sort of like a little warm blanket for a minute, but then it starts to be smothering.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I feel like the victim vibration for me was like, I thought that and I did do the work in boot camp, but it's like with such a gentle tap of the need, and what was the other thing? And trauma. So like there's like this gentle tap of like, oh, I'm still traumatized by this event, but that I wasn't aware that that was throwing me into victim mode, which was then, creating my spin out. And that was just a huge connection for me.
Yeah. Yeah, the victim vibration, and I again, I see people for arguing for victimhood all the time. Uh,
Hmm.
I like TikTok, and I'm kind of getting bored with TikTok these days, but I
Hmm.
sometimes will flip through TikTok just for the randomness of it, and sometimes you do see people that are sort of on there pushing this agenda of you are victimized, nothing is your fault, it's all their fault, your life is not under your control, it's under the control of them, whoever they are.
Hmm.
And you're taking people's power away. But from the source perspective, the person that's allowing themselves to have their power taken from them, they're having their experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we have to be clear that we're not judging that as something that's wrong, but this practice is certainly not about that. This
Hmm.
practice is about detuning the victim vibration, really eradicating the whole victim vibration from our lives,
Hmm.
because it's so easy to say, well, I didn't cause that. I wouldn't have attracted that. But this, going back to where we started with this discussion,
Yes.
vibrational flow impacts your point of attraction, guaranteeing a mix of good and what we might call bad things coming into our lives from conception, even.
Yeah.
Because even our conception is our projection into humanity, is a game of chance, if you will. You might be a miscarried fetus. You might be aborted. You might not be healthy. There's a vibration to that, and we have this idea that we have this benevolent being in the sky that is blessing some and cursing others for some reason, and that there's a such thing as just luck, and it's the luck of the draw. But once you really understand vibrational flow, you understand that vibrational flow creates our circumstances, and our operating system is our own creation as our reaction to our circumstances.
Yes.
Immediately. But if we stop judging all of that and we start viewing it as an eternal being, which we all are, and understand that whatever experience we have is just that. It's a physical experience that we have, and the suffering is all rooted in the judgment of the experience.
Yeah. The stream talked about that on Saturday at the summit, which I love that. I love the idea of like just the suffering is just the judgment of the experience. And it's so simple, but for me, that takes like a little unpacking and getting used to that vibration, because it's such a freeing vibration once I completely apply it to situations that I felt traumatized by in the past or victimized by in the past. And that saying like I'm a victim of circumstance, it just doesn't apply anymore, because I've created the circumstances, and now I get that I've created the circumstance for my expansion, which is empowering in and of itself.
Wow. Somebody write that down.
I
Brilliant. I love that. I love it when it's said in a different way too, because that's really going to resonate. It resonated with me like crazy.
Thank you.
And it's because that victim vibration only holds, and people are commenting, and some of you say Facebook users, we don't necessarily know your name. There's this thing about StreamYard where you have to register on StreamYard for your name to show up on our end. So I do see some of your comments, and there's another Nicole on right now, Nicole Marie Campbell, commenting, finding my core injury, has freed me from my victim vibe. I love that. No one can take my power. I can give love to myself and others within healthy boundaries. That's a very good vibe, a very, very, very healthy, empowered vibe. When people are new to these teachings, sometimes they'll tune in for a moment, not so much in this group, because you sort of are in the vibe of this if you're in this group. But when I do TikTok live or I do Instagram live, we have more random people popping on, and they'll hear a snippet of it, and they'll get right into that. Oh, you're victim blaming. Well, there's no victim blaming in this, because we all create scenarios for ourselves where we can choose the victim vibration, but it's not about blame. None of these teachings are about fault or blame or anything like that, because a big component of this is that source perspective appreciation of all that is. So when you're in that source perspective appreciation of all that is, even the person that is really deep into the victim vibration, you can appreciate that they're having their experience. These teachings are not aligned with their thought process, certainly, and it's probably not going to be very helpful to them until they get to a space, if they ever do, where they get so tired of feeling like a victim and feeling disempowered. And think about how many people in our world right now just feel so disempowered. And those are the ones that believe that the right political party is going to be the thing that's finally going to give them power. And I have to tell you that is a goalpost that just keeps getting moved further and further out. I've lived enough life now to where I understand that the conversation around politics, regardless of what side you're on, it never changes. It's always this promise that we're going to come into power, and you put us into power, and we're going to give you everything you ever dreamed of, and it's going to be perfect. But it never is. It doesn't accomplish much of anything, as most of us know. So a long time ago, I learned to stop giving any power to politics and
Mhm.
really understand that I create my life, I create my abundance, I create my reality, and none of that has anything to do with me. And my life has been a reflection of that.
Mhm.
I have lived life very much as a contradiction to what the mainstream is experiencing. During the recession, the 2008 recession, I was bringing in more money year after year after year during that recession.
Yeah.
I decided consciously that I wasn't going to participate in it.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with me.
Mm-mm. I mean, I was 28, so I wasn't really paying attention to it. I had a job and I was making money, and it was before I was a mom, so it did not impact me at all.
And the interesting thing is, I had a job at the time. This was back in my corporate days, and I had a job where I was in charge of several hundred commission-based interior designers. That was my old career. And I had sort of a bird's eye view of all these people. And I would travel from city to city in all of my markets. And I would go into our locations and I would meet with the staff and talk to them. And every single location, you had during this time when our business, the company's business plummeted by over 50% drop in revenue instantly during this recession, I would go in and meet with these people. And there was always this one, two, or three people on that staff who did not drop their income at all. Even with selling luxury interior design
Mhm.
goods, they just kept going. While the rest of the staff sat around and, oh my gosh, it's terrible, it's awful. Have you read this news? And they were passing out news articles on how bad it was going to get and how we were going back into the next depression and we were all going to be standing on soup lines. And they manifested that experience. In fact, at one
Mhm.
point, my job was to fly from city to city to city, just like that movie with George Clooney, and I had to cut every staff in half.
Yeah.
So my job, and it really sucked. It really sucked because I had to fly from city to city and go in
Mhm.
and terminate half the staff, terminate their employment during the recession.
Yeah.
And it was always that group of people that got so bogged down in how horrible everything is that they stopped functioning. And it was based on job performance. It was the bottom 50% of producers. That was just the company mandate. And that's what I did. And I realized I made peace with it by understanding that, gosh, if I don't do this, then the whole company could go down the tubes and nobody has a job. So that's how I made peace with it. But it wasn't fun. It's not a fun thing to call someone into an office and they know what's going on and you're taking their employment away from them in a situation like
Right.
that. And they're already living in fear. But the nuggets that I took away from that is that I saw the people who weren't concerned about that. They weren't living in fear. They were coming to work and just doing their thing. And they were fine.
Mhm.
They were fine, especially the people on commission. It was amazing. I had one employee, and she was in Seattle, Washington, and she consistently sold $100,000 every month, and she never dipped below that during the recession. So
Yeah.
even during the recession, when nobody was buying luxury interior design and furniture and things like that, she still managed to meet enough clients and do enough business to keep her $100,000 a month level.
Mhm. That's
So
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So, and what happened for me is that the company started eliminating some of the people at the very top. I was relatively new at the very top that had these huge salaries. My salary wasn't so big, but every time they eliminated one, I got their territory. So when I got their territory, my salary went up.
Right. Right.
But I was very much in that mindset of everyone is manifesting their reality. I shouldn't be judging that, because if I started judging that, and here's something that happens when you get into a practice such as this. If you dip into judging people who aren't up to speed with where you are, you're going to inevitably circle back and drag yourself down. So that was making peace with, this is their paths.
Mhm.
Their path is that they are choosing to feel victimized by this circumstance, and they are choosing to have a very negative situation. In fact, recessions are always driven just by collective fear anyway.
Mhm.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
People start getting scared and they start pulling their money out of banks and they start selling off their stocks and they start liquidating things, and then all of a sudden the value of everything goes down and we create a recession. It's all an illusion. The whole financial system is just an illusion. That's
Mm-hmm.
why we did the training. Those of you that took the training that the stream offered on the pyramid,
Yes.
the key to financial abundance is to love the financial system that is, because that places you at the apex of the pyramid. But if you're any other vibration other than loving the financial system that is, then you're going down, 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 and you're creating the base of the pyramid. And the
Mm-hmm.
base of the pyramid is carrying the weight of the entire pyramid. And who's at the base of the pyramid? The base of the pyramid are all of the people saying that everything should be free, that we shouldn't have to work for anything, that the financial system is corrupt and it's evil, people are greedy, and it's awful and it's terrible. And there are a lot of people in spiritual teachings that sort of have that mindset around anything that costs money. Anything
Mm-hmm.
financial, oh, that's evil, that's bad, that shouldn't cost money, that should be free, everything should be free. And I love to tell the story. I did back when I was doing all the discovery meetings to get people into boot camp, we
Mm-hmm.
were talking about the price of boot camp, which isn't low. And she was just blown away, like, oh my God, well, this is such an amazing thing. It should be free. And I did tell her, well, guess what? I do offer this stuff free everywhere, but boot camp's a
Yep.
whole different thing because
Right.
you're getting a whole lot of attention to really get this. And so she says, well, I just think everything should be free in life.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, let's explore that a little bit. So everything is free. So humanity, we're not living out in the jungle anymore. We're not in the food chain any longer.
Mm-hmm.
We've created all of this comfort, sometimes too much comfort, right? But we've created all of this comfort. I love living in a house. I love sleeping in a bed on a mattress.
Yes.
I love that nothing is trying to have me for dinner.
Right.
I
And
love
hot
that.
running water.
Yeah.
Love the hot showers.
Yeah, love the hot shower, love internet, love that I can jump on here and talk to anyone just about anywhere in the world
Yes.
with this technology. And I love our modern life. There's contrast on all topics. We're in a polarized environment. So any topic you bring up, you can find positive and negative in that topic, right? So the positive is we've created all of these things. Well, the contrast of all of that is that somebody's got to produce it.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation with her turned toward, well, do you enjoy all of your things? Right now you're talking to me, we do those on Zoom, or you're talking to me on Zoom. So
Yeah.
somebody's paying for your Zoom, right? Somebody's paying for your internet. Someone's paying for your device. Someone's paying for your electricity. Well, so those things should be free. Well, somebody could just like exchange. We could
Right.
just exchange things because someone has to build the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
We won't get into that whole topic, but somebody has to build the iPhone. Someone has to generate the electricity. Someone needs to invent and create, and there has got to be some exchange for the creation.
Mm-hmm.
The people that invented Zoom and StreamYard, there should be some exchange for that creation. If you say that it should just be free, then where's the motivation for anyone to create?
Right. Yeah.
And that's when she said, well, there could be this exchange. I'm like, yeah, that's called currency.
Right. That is the exchange.
It's
I
called
know.
currency exchange. And when
Mm-hmm.
something has value and we want it, we figure out a way to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Manifest a
True.
way to receive it, right? And to
Mm-hmm.
experience it. So if it has value, we're willing to exchange for it something.
Yeah.
So making peace with the system that we chose to manifest into,
Mm-hmm.
that moves you up the pyramid. Even if you financially, if your bank account is revealing that you're lower in the pyramid, the trip up the pyramid is the trip up in your financial flow.
Yes.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
Because if you're demonizing the system that is, then where are you vibrationally in alignment with it?
Right. And that's exactly what I was going to say, vibration and alignment, because what I found for me yesterday was that the money wasn't about the money. So like the financial disconnect that somebody's having, at least for me, was about other things other than money. There's some other vibrational dust for me to work on. So it's just, clicking back into an alignment of a higher frequency to see it from a perspective that I hadn't seen it before. And then the other than just making peace, because I was taught like just make peace with it, it's okay. The appreciation of it, like the full-on appreciation of it, is what led me to trust And that deeper level of trust is what's fueling my abundance with when it's not even financial abundance right now. It's joy, clarity, connection to myself, relationships in my life. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
wasn't about the money.
Yeah. The practice is called Tya, which means trust your abundance. But I always like to clarify that abundance is what you're desiring to experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Lamborghinis and mansions. It can be that.
Yeah.
But again, source isn't judging that stuff. So we have a first time viewer, Samadhi, the Oracle.
Yeah.
Did I
Mm-hmm.
say your name correctly? She says, I realized that I had been blocking abundance from coming into my life for a long time because I associated abundance with materialism. But this isn't the case. It's all about intentions.
Mm-hmm.
The stream has said that the idea of material things, we're in a material world, and there's nothing wrong with appreciating and even desiring material things. But I like the term materialism because that's my definition of that, is that you are replacing your joy and your source connection, your clarity. You are wanting to acquire material things to soothe the disconnection from source.
Right. Right.
And there's never enough material things when you do that, and we see
Mm-mm.
examples of that in our society. Of, you've got to have 10 houses and 20 cars and a yacht, and you've got to be crushing it with all of these material things, and then we find out that the person still isn't happy. And I
Mm-hmm.
certainly never had that level of wealth, but I did achieve a place in my life where I looked around and realized that, gosh, from my childhood perspective at 40, 41, I was living the life of what I would have called a rich person in my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful house, nice cars, all the stuff. And I still wasn't happy. And that was my realization that, wow, that childhood idea of what being rich is what I'm living now. And it's not everything. It's good. I like the stuff. It's pretty. It's
Mm-hmm.
nice, but it's not doing it for me. The thing
Right.
that does it for me is clarity. That's my favorite manifestation of all, is clarity, understanding. I love understanding how things work. And with the stream flowing, I love that they provide the understanding of how the entire universe works.
Mm-hmm.
This magic of vibrational flow that
Mm-hmm.
creates everything, because
Mm-hmm.
we as physical beings are the creators, or at least the co-creators, and are experiencing something that we want to change, which drives us to wanting to manifest something, a condition, a better feeling, a physical improvement, a more satisfying relationship, more fun, more travel, shinier things, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that desire, allowing ourselves to go up into source connected territory, meaning higher vibration, where all new thought and all new positive creation occurs, going into that creative space where all of the solutions and intuition, all of that stuff resides in us, and allowing the full manifestation of it.
Yes.
Understanding that the manifestation is a byproduct of the vibration.
True. So true. And I loved your vault meditation. I don't know if it's still out, but it's huge because it's not. It's tapping into that vibration of creativity. It's like inspired action comes from that meditation, and I just love it.
Yeah, you can on the Stream of David website, you can get those meditations, and I think that the vault is, you can get the vault through there for sure.
Oh, good.
I love the vault because
Yeah,
it
me
takes
too.
you into your vault, and it's, the vault is specifically about money, but
Yes.
it's about the idea of allowing money to flow and being in the vibration of money for the freedom that it offers, and then from
Hmm.
there you discern your preference, what you want to do with it. But it's not about hoarding. It's
Right.
about flow. Because
Yes.
if you're really trusting your abundance, you don't need to hoard anything. You
Hmm.
don't need a pile of money sitting in the bank that is yours and you've staked claim to it because you want the security of it.
Hmm.
Think of where the vibration of I need security, that sneaky little word of need comes in.
Right. Right. Hmm. That
Why do
was
you
the
need?
other thing.
Why do you need? That's a
Right.
great question. Why do I need anything?
Hmm. And
Indeed.
I feel like for me, need was putting me back into the victim vibe. So it's just getting to see that connection, which is awesome. And I love, love, love soothing the disconnect because I had never heard anything like that before, Taya. And just hearing that phrase made so much sense into what my life had been up to before joining Taya, was basically trying to the disconnect. And not since then have I been in that state, and I love it.
And that's the thing going into that vibration of need is, do we need it because we're trying to soothe the disconnect from our
Right.
source connection,
Mm-hmm.
which is there. Again, we're not having to go find a signal somewhere or go seek it out. It's already always there. It just needs to be realized. So, Kat, hi, Kat. Good to see you on. Is clarity alignment? The word, these are again, we're using human created words in maybe different ways sometimes to describe things that aren't necessarily described in the mainstream. But alignment with your source connection, meaning just allowing your natural source connection or realizing your natural source connection, provides clarity. So we talk about joy, clarity, and abundance. Those are the three gifts of Taya that you manifest. Joy, just in your natural source connection, just learning to love yourself as is without needing anything to change.
Mm-hmm.
So not really throwing out the old playbook of, as soon as I have XYZ, I'm going to love myself and I'm going to have joy and I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
because that just, it never comes. You might get glimpses of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, walking around the big house with beautiful furniture and all the nice stuff. There were elements of that made me happy, and there's elements of where I am now that absolutely make me happy. I love walking through this house every day and looking out the pool, and Lola's hanging out there, and I love the environment. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a material environment, but that isn't soothing a disconnection from source. My all of that stuff, including my beloved dog Lola, could and will disappear from my physical experience at some point. But reframing all of it is, this is the experience that I'm in right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is the experience that I've manifested, and I appreciate it very much.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that it's not the source of my joy and clarity.
Which is
My
huge.
joy and clarity is the source of the abundance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. That whatever you're manifesting is an extension of the clarity and joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, when I was in boot camp, I had tangible ideas of what I wanted to manifest, and they definitely came into fruition. Like I never saw how it was even possible for them to materialize, and then they did. But it was only because I was in a constant state of joy and clarity that provided the opportunity for it to happen. Because if I had been operating on my old system, I would not have achieved the goals that I did when I was in boot camp.
Yeah. that that
Yeah.
that old system of operation is something that we see examples of it all around us all the time, and we see
Mhm.
examples of it in ourselves, but we are replacing it systematically with the Taya practice,
Mhm.
because that all of that fear that bubbles up when we're in our low vibrational flow, all of the judgment that can creep in, because that there's a fine line between discerning your preference and judging. And
Mhm.
judgment is very much laced with fear. It's that I need this thing to be happy. You don't. Or I
Mhm.
need someone to agree with me to be validated. You don't. Or I need other people to believe in this practice, or in the stream even. You don't. I don't.
Mhm.
We put the stream out there for the world, but the majority of the world isn't in alignment with the stream. Maybe they will be at some point. Who knows? But
Mhm.
that's not what it's about. It's about offering a stream of consciousness that is very stripped down source, and the clarity that provides for people that are ready for that level of clarity. But all the people in the political posts that are battling out, and I'm right and you're wrong, and you're all idiots and we're all smart, and needing to be right and needing to give their power away to politics or religion or nationalism or whatever they're giving
Mhm.
the power to, that they believe makes them somehow superior. That's all ego rooted stuff that is soothing the disconnection from source, or attempting to soothe it. I don't
Mhm.
think it does a very good job, because
Yeah.
ultimately that stuff, especially when you're really negative about it and really wanting to battle, just think of that inner vibration, that vibration that's going on when you need to be right and you need to battle and you need to argue your point.
Right, right. I mean, I can get into that vibration very quickly with my daughter's father, and it just doesn't serve any purpose. So I just don't. I don't like being in that energy. And I don't have to go down my spiral about it.
Yeah, the best thing to do with any transgressor, any unwanted or unappreciated person, circumstance, or event is to the faster you find authentic appreciation,
Mm-hmm.
not spiritual bypassing, love and light.
Right. Yeah.
Authentic appreciation, where your vibe is appreciation. This isn't about what you're saying as much as what you're vibing, what you're feeling, what you're believing.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you find appreciation for that transgressor, it is no longer a transgressor.
Mm-hmm.
We are taught to think exactly the opposite of that. So you just talked about going down your spiral, and we're on the hour now. So the last little nugget that we're going to leave you with is that stopgap. I think somebody just mentioned stop. I think Kat mentioned stopgap. The nugget that we're going to leave you with today is the stopgap of the next time you're triggered by something. Understand that you're probably already in your lower vibrational flow and not even realizing it, because if you're not systematically really paying attention to where you are vibrationally, that becomes a way of life, but it takes some work to get there. But the next time you find yourself feeling triggered by something, stop and ask yourself, is this worth going down my spiral over?
Mm-hmm.
You can create that stopgap for yourself. And then what you do is you find appreciation in that stopgap. You're sort of catching yourself and, wait a minute, I'm not going to go down my spiral over this. No, I don't like being down my spiral. I'm not going to go down over this. And then you can explore the transgressor. And the sooner you find appreciation, radical, authentic appreciation for the transgressor, the sooner it's going to be detuned. But understand that it takes some work. It takes some cycling through this practice to clear out all that vibrational dust. But it becomes fun, I promise you. If you're new to this,
it's a spring cleaning. You put on good music and you enjoy it.
Yeah, it becomes a fun process to just do this practice for the rest of your life if you choose to do so. Just clearing that dust out, and the more you clear the dust out, the more your default vibration goes up. The more your default vibration goes up, the more you are living in joy, clarity, and abundance. Because the joy, and notice the joy and the clarity come. The joy comes first,
right?
Then the clarity, then the abundance. Humanity flips it. As soon as you're abundant, you're going to experience joy. But that's not true. That's a never-ending cycle of chasing abundance if you believe that's somehow going to deliver some level of lasting joy, authentic joy. Authentic joy is in the loving of what's now. Nicole, it was wonderful chatting.
So wonderful. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you for being here once again, twice, two times in 2 weeks. So thank you for being on. Thank you all so much for watching and participating. Your comments are fantastic. Keep commenting, keep the conversation going in this thread, because this will stay up and more people will view this. And your comments are much appreciated. So thank you all for joining. And Siri, once again, I don't know if you're on live or not, but congratulations on winning that ticket to the LA Summit that we're doing January 15th, 2022. Mark your calendars. Thanks, everybody.
Wait for it. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.